Hi, I'm Matt and welcome to my latest gaming news video. I will be covering recent gaming news as well as some other gaming related things in this video. I'm grateful for any feedback, so if you feel the need to do so, please leave a comment below. You can also like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos. I'll now get into some gaming news from the past week or so. I was planning on doing a separate Gamescom 2023 video, but decided to just roll it into this week's gaming news video. So I'll be covering the recent Gamescom 2023 event. There was a fair bit shown off. I will start with the games which I'm looking forward to the most, and then I'll cover some additional Gamescom stuff. Once the Gamescom section is done, I will move into some general gaming news. And as always, I will add images to most of the games covered as well as some footage. I think in this video there will be a fair amount of footage. So yeah, now let's get into the Gamescom section. There was a Starfield live action trailer. It seemed kind of cool. I'm not usually into these types of live action video game trailers, but I think this was well done. Then they showed some more Starfield gameplay, and Todd Howard joined Jeff Keighley on stage to discuss the game some more. They showed some cool stuff. Definitely check it out if you're interested. I will link relevant videos and articles in the description as usual, including the full opening night video. Not too much else to say about Starfield. I'll cover some stuff about it later in the more general gaming news section. But now on to some other games. Quite an interesting game next. That is Killing Floor 3. I played quite a lot of the first Killing Floor as well as Killing Floor 2. Though I think I preferred the first game. It was and still is a great game. I did like the second game, but not as much. This was kind of unexpected, I guess, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye on Killing Floor 3. It looked cool, and the Killing Floor games are known for their intense gore, and this looks no different. You can expect this to be the most gore-filled game in the series, I would imagine. Similarly to Killing Floor 2, it does look rather over the top, but in a good way and action-packed. I think I still may prefer the simplicity of the first game, but we will just have to wait and see. No release date was revealed, and the Steam page just says coming soon. I wouldn't expect it this year. I'm thinking first half of next year. I'll definitely wait to see reviews for the game before I buy it. I used to play the older games with a group of friends, so if the game is well received and I have people to play it with, I might pick it up. On to the next one. I'm always interested in a new Lord of the Rings game, and a new game based upon J.R.R. Tolkien's world called The Lord of the Rings Return to Moria is releasing on the October 24th for PC and PS5 with an Xbox series release date of early 2024. So it is a crafting survival game similar to others in the genre like Conan Exiles, I guess, but sort of set in Middle Earth and more specifically the Mines of Moria. A game set in the Mines of Moria isn't necessarily something I was expecting, but is now definitely something I would like to experience. From the footage we have so far, it looks pretty good. There's the usual staples you expect from the genre, things like resource gathering, crafting, and building, as well as combat. The combat sections looked quite cool, and you'll face orcs, trolls, giant octopus or cephalopods or nameless things, maybe spiders, and likely many other Middle Earth creatures. The map is also procedurally generated, which I'm interested to see how that will play out in an like I expect mostly underground environment. It does sound quite cool. Also, before I move on, Gimli is actually the leader of the dwarfs as they attempt to retake Moria, which I think is pretty cool. Who else, I guess, would you expect to lead the dwarfs? I guess the decision to use Gimli instead of Balin, is it, was likely made because he's more recognizable and beloved character. And I guess I'm not too bothered by the sort of lore accuracy for the game, but maybe there will be some who are. Oh, and another thing on the PC platform, the game is an Epic exclusive, though I expect that exclusivity to last for a year. Also, let's hope it's a far better game than Gollum. I'm expecting it to be much better than Gollum, given how badly that game was received. Next up, Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl is a game I'm looking forward to. It is the long-awaited sequel to the original game and its expansions. I feel there are a lot of people who have been waiting for Stalker 2. The original game was and still is a classic. From what was shown, I think the game is looking pretty good. Although, given how anticipated the game is, the game does have pretty high expectations that it hopefully lives up to. They showed indoor and outdoor gameplay, with the indoor parts looking rather sort of foreboding and dark, similar to the original Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. I think the outdoor environments, yeah, they look fine. Hopefully there will be a lot of exploration and things to do. I suspect there will be. We'll have to wait and see if Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl lives up to its predecessor. As far as I can tell, the game is releasing in Q1 of 2024. I think originally it was planned to release the end of this year, but it's been pushed back, I believe. And it is coming to the PC, Xbox Series consoles. No sign of a PS5 release though, which is kind of surprising, but I guess it could release there at a later date, or they just haven't revealed it yet for some reason. A game with a rather unique setting next. I'm quite interested in this game, Lies of P. They showed a gameplay trailer at Gamescom, and it looks rather impressive. As mentioned, the game has a unique setting, is a Souls-like set in the Pinocchio universe. I don't think many games are set in that universe, let alone a Souls-like game. I am really liking the dark and sort of mild horror world that the game takes place in. It does have some Bloodborne feels, and as you probably already realised, given that it's a Souls-like, the game has a sort of massive emphasis on combat. The combat does look pretty good, with a focus on parrying or deflecting, kind of like Sekiro, I guess. I think at one point there was even a grapple used to close in on an enemy, similar to Sekiro. The game is actually out fairly soon, on the 19th of September. I feel this year has so many sort of anticipated releases. We've had a new Zelda, Diablo 4, Baldur's Gate 3, Armored Core 6, Starfield, and so much more that's coming. So yeah, it's going to be a packed few months. But yeah, we'll be checking back in on Lies of P when it releases, as it, yeah, it looks pretty good, and I'm a huge fan of the Souls games. Hopefully it turns out to be a good game. A Lords of the Fallen extended story trailer was also shown at the event. Lords of the Fallen is a game I'm quite interested in, mostly because it's going to be showing off some cool Unreal Engine 5 tech, and because I do like the look of the game. It's a very nice Dark Souls, Dark Fantasy feel to it. I don't think many story details were available before this, so if you're into the lore surrounding this game, this might be of interest. Go check the video. And yeah, I don't think I'll get the game on release, but it is a game I'm really interested in. Didn't play the original, which I don't know if this new game is a direct sequel. It seems like more like a successor, as it has the exact same name. Lords of the Fallen, the original game, came out in 2014, so I was a bit confused when Lords of the Fallen 2023 was announced, as I thought it was a direct sequel. They haven't said it's a remake or remaster. It is, in fact, an entirely new game in the series. It is looking good, so we'll definitely be keeping an eye on it. Next up, Homeworld 3 had a gameplay trailer. Homeworld 3 is a sci-fi RTS set in space. Not played the older games, but from what I could tell, they're classic RTS games that are loved by the Homeworld fanbase. I've only really heard good things about the other Homeworld games. The first two games, Homeworld 1 and 2, were remastered in 2015, so they're more compatible with modern systems. I may have to play them at some point. There's also a prequel titled Homeworld Deserts of Karak. I haven't played that either. Like those original games, the sequel will have epic space battles featuring ship-to-ship combat, as well as a rich story. If it is like the older games, then you can probably expect it to be good. I do like space or sci-fi RTS and strategy games, and from the gameplay shown, Homeworld 3 has me intrigued. Looks quite cool. It is another game I'll be keeping sort of tabs on. Homeworld 3 doesn't have a specific release date as of yet, but according to the Steam page, it's coming February 2024. So there had been talk that a new Tomb Raider game was going to be shown at Gamescom, which got me very excited because, as you may have noticed, I've recently been playing through the Tomb Raider reboot trilogy or Survivor timeline. Previously, I'd only played Tomb Raider through Tomb Raider 2013, but have now played through Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and yeah, I think they're really good games. There's a really good trilogy of games. Now, I had known a new Tomb Raider was in development that I believe continues the current Lara's storyline. I don't think this new one, upcoming new one, is another reboot, but I hadn't heard anything related to the development of the game. The game is also being made using Unreal Engine 5 as opposed to the Foundation engine used by Crystal Dynamics in the three most recent games. I'm really looking forward to the next Tomb Raider, especially now after playing the Survivor trilogy of games and really enjoying the most recent ones. There are there were rumors that the game was going to be announced at Gamescom. Sadly, though, it was not. If it was, it would have been at the top of my list, Gamescom 2023 games coverage. I'm thinking that maybe Crystal Dynamics will show it later this year or early next at their own event, or potentially at the Game Awards. We'll just have to wait and see. But before I just add this bit, because yeah, there was some leaks and rumors that the next Tomb Raider game was going to be shown off, but yeah, it was not. So I will just go over some additional game reveals and news that came out of Gamescom before I move on to the general gaming news. So, and some other games that interest me. I'll start off with Crimson Desert. I had originally thought this was an MMO, but it looks like that is not the case. It is in fact an open world RPG. I do like the look of the game, Crimson Desert. It kind of reminds me of Dragon's Dogma. It seems like the game will feature a number of like varied gameplay elements, including parkour, climbing, hijacking, mounted combat, and fishing, among other things. It is a game I will be checking back in on the future. It does look quite interesting. Another game in the opening night section was Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin. This is an action RTS set in the Warhammer Fantasy universe. Don't think there's too much out about the game at the moment, but it looks intriguing to me. I might have to keep an eye on it. Sounds cool. Warhammer action RTS, maybe similar to like the Dawn of War 2, something along those lines. Next up was a game called Warhaven, which was showcased. It's a 16v16 medieval multiplayer combat game. I guess similar to For Honor or Chivalry. Not too much was shown, but it looks kind of cool. I did like similar games like Mordhau, and played a fair bit of that, and War of the Roses a while ago before that got shut down. But whether this will be as good as those games, I'm not sure. It's going to be free to play, so I'm a little concerned it will be stacked with microtransactions and pay to win elements, but I could be wrong. Maybe it won't be. Hopefully it's a decent game. Next up is Akatori. It's a Metroidvania platformer that I liked the look of. It's a very stylish design. The combat in the game is looking pretty good and fluid. The world design and environments look great. If you're interested in Metroidvania games, this is one to check out. The Inquisitor was another game that interested me. It is a dark fantasy adventure set in I assume, medieval Europe in the town of Königstein. I say I assume because it is set in an alternate version of reality going by what was revealed. It looks rather dark, and you'll be playing as the eponymous Inquisitor. It feels very atmospheric and sort of story driven with a lot of mystery going by what they showed off. I believe the game is based upon a series of books by Jacek Pikara. I believe that's how you pronounce it, maybe not. These books are also titled the Inquisitor series of books. So yeah, it's based on those books. Next up was Death Ground. It's a dinosaur horror game. Yeah, really liking the look of. You don't really get that many of these games anymore. I'm hoping the Dino Crisis games get the Resident Evil remake treatment. That would be cool. But yeah, back to Death Grounds. It is, yeah, looking intriguing. There are outdoor and indoor environments where you must evade the game's dinosaurs. Looks like it might be co-op as well, which will likely fit the game quite well. Yeah, it does look like, yeah, quite an interesting dinosaur horror game. And there were a number of other reveals and announcements as well as game updates during Gamescom, but these are sort of my picks of things that interested me. But yeah, definitely check the links in the description. One is an IGN link that details every announcement, including a few I didn't mention during this video. But yeah, now I shall be getting into some non-Gamescom related gaming news. So first off, I will get in some Armored Core news and my own sort of thoughts on the game and stuff. So yeah, there will be a bit of sales info on the game, but first I shall share, yeah, my thoughts on the game. I wasn't planning on getting the game already, but I was gifted a Steam voucher by a friend of mine. Big thanks to you if you're listening. So I decided to get Armored Core 6. I already have Starfield through Game Pass, so don't need to purchase it on Steam. And yeah, I was thinking of getting Baldur's Gate 3 as well, but thought if I'm gonna get into Baldur's Gate 3, I need a sort of less packed gaming release period. And I thought, yeah, Armored Core 6 could fill sort of the time before Starfield. But yeah, it looks like I will be playing Armored Core 6 longer than I thought, though. As yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's yeah, real good. Yeah, really like the game. As you may have noticed, I'm using footage from the game for this video. I have about by the time this goes up and recording and things, I probably would have played about 15 hours by the time of, yeah, this recording. Um, And yeah, I'm quite impressed by the game, by Armored Core 6. It's also my first time playing a game in the series properly. I vaguely remember playing one of the titles uh, on the PS2, but yeah, not I don't remember much of it. I really like the feel of the game. It plays really nice. The combat is great and fluid. It does remind me of other From Software games, but it definitely has its own unique feel as well. There are so many um, AC or mech customization options. There's a sort of plethora of mech combinations, a bunch of weapon variety and mech loadouts. I'm really impressed by the different parts and weapons you can equip to your armored core. There are so many sort of builds you can do. Customization elements that impressed me as well was the sort of paint, the decals, and the image editor. The preset and custom paint options are actually really nice, and there are a load of different decals, including ones you can unlock through progression. You can also design your own, which I've done. I've even tried to create my YouTube logo, the MC logo, which yeah, you may notice on my AC at parts of the video. I've spent a few hours already designing and sort of customizing my AC in that total sort of 15-hour playtime. But yeah, this type of thing is something I really enjoy in games, so I'm yeah, glad it's so extensive. As I mentioned, the combat is great, and the bosses I've fought so far are pretty fun. But like the Souls game, they are no pushovers. They can be quite difficult. The game in general is, yeah, rather difficult at points, and the arena battles can be quite hard. Sometimes the difficulty requires a switch in equipment or a change up of your tactics. I could imagine it being worse if you've come into the game with no prior Souls game experience and are not expecting it to be so punishing at points. There should have been footage of me replaying the first mission where you fight a boss. It looks like I breezed through it, but do know I did die a few times when I originally played the mission. I've also struggled with the odd arena fight, but after altering my AC and trying different sort of fight styles, coming at it in different sort of with different tactics and things, I did sort of overcome the opponents I was stuck on. The game also runs really well on PC. Graphically, the game isn't the most demanding, although I do think it looks pretty good. The gritty mecha industrial world really fits the game. So yeah, I am really liking the game. It gets a recommendation from me, and I think my playing of Starfield has been pushed back a little bit, as I definitely want to play through Armored Core 6 to completion, and yeah, maybe even to New Game Plus, because I've heard there's some changes to it if you go into New Game Plus. So that's, yeah, interesting to know. Not sure what exactly, whether it's related to story or gameplay or whatever, but yeah, apparently there is a reason to continue the game after completion if you're really into the game, I guess. Yeah, but I'll cover a quick bit of sales related news. So yeah, it looks like Armored Core 6 has had very good sales as I expected, given that it's a From Software game. The game's publisher, Bandai Namco, has said that it believes the sales success is thanks to Elden Ring. I think the game being great and being received quite well is also helped, as you can expect. From what I can tell, the game was Steam's top seller also during the weekend that it was released. But yeah, this is great news. I'm definitely going to be excited for the next entry in the series, and I may go and play some of the older games at some point. But yeah, that is the Starfield. Sorry, the Armored Core 6 portion of the video finished. Yeah, it's a recommendation from me. But now into some Starfield details. So there has been a lot of Starfield related news and things going around lately, which I guess isn't surprising as the game is almost out. By the time this video goes up, it will be out for some people, I guess, depending on what edition of the game you bought. But yeah, most of it I won't cover news. I'd rather just wait until I play the game, see how it is for myself. But I will cover some Starfield modding news that I felt sort of fell under the radar a bit. As I was expecting, Starfield is going to be moddable. I'm not sure how extensive the mods will be, but given the modding communities that sprung up around previous Bethesda games like Skyrim, New Vegas, and Fallout 4, I'd expect them to be, yeah, pretty impressive. At least once the mod developers have had some time to work on the game and work on the mods. I'm looking forward to trying mods for the game in the future. I think my first playthrough will be mostly modless, I would imagine, although I may add some quality of life mods or simple design altering mods if I feel the need or like the look of what the mod does, but nothing major, maybe cosmetics and things, outfits and similar similar mods. Going by what Pete Hines, who's the publishing boss at Bethesda, has said, the game will have great modding support. Pete said that, quote, when you start to think of the kind of communities that come around Bethesda Studios games, and putting a tool like that in the hands of people to go, how would you like to make a planet? He continued, all of that is going to be off the charts when you start getting a community come in and add all of the different things that they want to bring to it. So yeah, modders creating their own planets sounds rather incredible. It is looking like the game will have the modding tools necessary to create some spectacular mods, which is awesome. I can only imagine the mods we'll see over the coming years for Starfield. I'm really looking forward to the game. Um, Once I've finished with Armored Core, I'll be jumping probably straight into Starfield. I just hope it doesn't have a rocky launch. Now on to some Baldur's Gate 3 news. I had covered previously that the Xbox version of the game was going to release later than the PC and PS5 versions, and this was because Larian Studios were having issues with the game's split screen co-op and getting it to work properly on the Series S. There has been an update on this front, and the game is now going to release later this year instead of next year. I had wondered if there was something they would do, and I believe that I speculated that what it would be. And what they have done is to drop the split screen requirement for the game on the Series S. It should still be in the Xbox Series X version of the game, but now the Series S version, at least not on launch anyway. Larian Studios boss Sven Vink had confirmed the news recently on Twitter or X. He said that, quote, super happy to confirm that after meeting Phil Spencer yesterday, we found a solution that allows us to bring Baldur's Gate 3 to Xbox players this year, still. Something we've been working towards for quite some time. And he continued to say, quote, all improvements will be there with split screen co-op on the Series X. Series S will not feature split screen co-op, but will also include cross-save progression between the Steam and Xbox Series. So that's the end of those quotes. Yeah, I think this is fine. If they had to make this compromise to get it released on Xbox consoles, then yeah, that's okay by me. I suspect they will add it in at a later date if they're able to. I don't feel the game should have been held back because the Series S version couldn't reach feature parity with the more powerful consoles. I think losing split screen capability on the Series S at launch is a sort of fair price to pay to get it shipped on Xbox. Microsoft and Xbox had previously said that new Xbox games should have feature parity between the two consoles. For Baldur's Gate 3, this stipulation has been sort of nullified, I guess, likely due to the massive popularity of the game. I wonder if we will see more games not requiring feature parity between Series X and S, maybe even like less popular games. As someone with a Series S, I'm mostly used to play backwards compatible games. I'm totally fine with this happening, although I could see some people not being happy with this, especially if they play new games on the console. Hopefully it doesn't always have to happen, but I think it's okay if required, like in the case of Baldur's Gate 3. Another quick bit of extra Baldur's Gate 3 news before we move on. This bit is in relation to future patches and potential DLC. Larian is currently working on the next major patch for the game and has been taking time to think about how to expand the game, I suspect, in the form of an expansion. But yeah, I think any sort of DLC is probably a while off. But yeah, it's good to know that the game may have future expansions. But given how extensive the current game is, I'd imagine there is plenty of content to get through before then. On to some sad news next. The game studio Mimimi Games is shutting down. They've been making games for around 15 years, I believe. I have covered a couple of their games, Shadow Tactics, Blades of the Shogun, in a recent gaming deal section, and uh, their most recent game, Shadow Gambit: The Cursed Crew, in a recent upcoming games section. Both are very positively reviewed games. Mimimi Games has decided to shutter its doors because, quote, working on increasingly ambitious games take a heavy personal toll on us and our families. And, quote, after the release of Shadow Gambit, we decided it was the right time to prioritize our well-being and to pull the brakes instead of signing up for another multi-year production cycle. Yeah, if they feel the need to do this, then I'm happy for them. I would not want anyone sacrificing their personal life or health to continue making games. If this is the action they must take, then I back them 100%. This was announced in a recent blog post on their website. They also said that the studio will be slowly ramping down over the next few months. They went on to detail that opportunities are being sought for their current employees and that they will be receiving a bonus payout to help those employees out. Hopefully everyone that is losing their job lands on their feet and finds sort of prompt employment, I guess, in the gaming industry or wherever they decide to go. Up next is some Switch sales news. Nintendo's latest console has now surpassed the mighty Wii in lifetime sales in the US. Hadn't realized this actually. The Switch had already passed the Wii in total global sales over a year ago in February of 2022. For context, the Wii had sold around 101.63 million units during its lifetime. The Switch is now less than 1 million units behind the Xbox 360 in the US and around 5 million behind the PS2 in the US. Nintendo had said earlier this month that the current total Switch global sales had reached around 129.53 million by the end of June 2023, which is pretty impressive. I will say I'm not too surprised by this, as I know the Switch is very popular. It has had some really great games over the years, like the most recent two Legends of Zelda games. I wonder how many more Nintendo will sell, especially as there is talk of a Switch 2 coming in the second half of next year, 2024. News that I had covered in a tech news video a few videos back, maybe. I don't ever really game on handhelds, but it's something I'm open to. Maybe I'll take a more serious look when the Switch's successor is released, or a successor to Valve Steam Deck is announced. Finally, for today's sort of gaming news section, before I move on to the upcoming games, some Warframe sort of slash Digital Extremes news. A new action RPG MMO, so I guess an MMORPG being made by the studio was announced at their annual TennoCon event. The game will be free to play as Warframe is. When compared to Warframe, the game is called Soulframe. I should have probably mentioned that before, but when compared to Warframe, Soulframe does look slower paced. Warframe is mostly crazy, sort of fast action. From what they've shown of the game, it does it looks interesting. There's a similar aesthetic feel as Warframe in some ways, but it has its own look. I will link the gameplay video as I usually do in case you want to take a more sort of in-depth look. I guess it looks like it is taking some inspiration from games like Elden Ring, but I would say it's a mix of Warframe and Elden Ring. Or I wouldn't say, rather, it's a mix of the games. It's sort of yeah, it does look like its own unique game. The creative boss on Soulframe, Steve Sinclair, who was previously the creative director on Warframe, said, quote, "It's a longer running game. It's going to be free to play and all of those things you can expect from a digital extremes game, but the pacing is kind of inverted. Where Warframe is fast and frenetic, Soulframe is going to be slow and pensive." So yeah, if you would prefer a slow-paced free-to-play MMO created by Digital Extremes, then this might be the game to check out. I may try Soulframe, but I don't really play MMOs anymore. Might do at some point, but I feel they just take up too much time. Time I could spend playing numerous other games instead of just being sort of stuck into one game. The only MMO I'm keeping tabs on is the upcoming Lord of the Rings MMO. I will, yeah, probably give that a go. Warframe was the last sort of non-old school RuneScape MMORPG that I played, and I did play it, yeah, quite a lot. The last time I played Warframe was over 4 years ago, though. I just kind of stopped as I got a bit burnt out playing it, but I enjoyed my time playing Warframe. It's a good game, but I've sort of lost interest in MMOs over the past few years. But yeah, maybe I might get back into them at the same point. But yeah, they can be quite time sink sort of games. The only MMORPG I do go back to every now and then is old school RuneScape, although rarely for very long when I have got back into it more recently. Yeah, it's just they do take quite a lot of time to get into and get back into as well. And that is the general gaming news side of things done. I'll move into the upcoming games now. So a couple big games coming over the next week or so, including Baldur's Gate 3 coming to PS5 and then Starfield. There are a few other games as well, but not too much else. They're generally smaller games. As always, I'll be putting footage and images up of the upcoming games. So yeah, first up in this week's upcoming game section is the PS5 release of Baldur's Gate 3. Won't go too deep into this one as I've covered the game a fair bit the past month or so since it's released. PS5 will be the game's first release on console, but as mentioned earlier, is also coming to Xbox Series consoles now later this year. Hopefully it runs well. I'm almost sure that it should run fine on the PS5, but you never know. I don't believe the console version is cut down in any way, so it should be the same experience as PC, but without mods, I assume. I know some console games allow mods, though I'm not sure about this game. It's releasing on PS5 on the 4th of September, so if you've been waiting to play it on PS5, it's likely going to be a good day for you, as it is, yeah, such a well-received game. Next up is Chance of Sennar, I believe it's pronounced. This is a very stylized sort of action adventure 3D puzzle platformer set in a fictional Near East or Middle East and inspired by the myth of Babel and the Tower of Babel. The game has a very nice art and graphic design, and I'll put some footage and images up around here as as I usually do. But yeah, it looks great. Really like the use of color in this game. Gameplay wise, it seems to have the usual stuff you'd expect from an adventure puzzler. Going by the Steam description, the Steam page description, one puzzle gameplay element is the need to decode or decipher language, which going by what the game is inspired by, that is not not too surprising. The page reads, quote, observe, listen, and decipher ancient languages in a fascinating universe inspired by the myth of Babel. The game is being published by Focus Entertainment, formerly Focus Home Interactive, but it is not being developed by them. The developer is Rundisk, who have made another game called Varion, but this seems to be their first larger scale game. Chance of Sennar is coming to PC, Nintendo Switch, as well as last gen consoles. Interestingly, the game doesn't detail a PS5 or Xbox Series version coming, but when I checked, it is playable on those consoles. I believe through however backwards compatibility works through a digital purchase. So yeah, if you buy I guess the PS4, maybe check before you look into the game and buy it. But if you buy like the PS4 digital store version, it should just run on PS5, I believe. But definitely check that out. Same for the Xbox. Check it out before you buy it. The game is releasing on the 5th of September, and there's a demo for the game on all platforms, from what I could tell. Now on to the big one this week. Conceivably one of the most anticipated game releases in many years, and that is, yeah, probably guessed it, Starfield. Another game I've covered in a number of videos on my channel. So far, at least to me, the game is looking like it would be a good game and rather impressive, although you never know these days how games will release. I've mostly tempered my hype for the game, and I will likely play it around or a few days after release, depending on how my time with Armored Core 6 goes. Starfield is a game I'm really looking forward to, and hopefully it doesn't have too many of the same issues that previous Bethesda games have had on launch. Though I expect it will at least have some, but I could be pleasantly surprised. Starfield is coming to PC as well as the Xbox Series X and S. It has two separate release dates. If you purchase one of the premium editions of the game, then you can play it on the 1st of September, so likely the day this video is going up. And if you get the standard edition, you can play the game on the 6th of September, which is the normal sort of base game release date and the day I will be playing it on, or I expect after, as I will be playing it through Game Pass on PC. I do have the game already preloaded. I'll likely be covering the game quite a bit and may dedicate a separate video to the game, or maybe add a section to an upcoming gaming news video, similar to what I've done in this video with Armored Core 6 earlier. The final two games in the upcoming game section are farming games. The first is Fae Farm. From what I can tell, this is a fairly highly anticipated farming game. It describes itself as a farming sim RPG. That sounds like a good idea, I guess, matching a farming game with an RPG or RPG elements. I guess maybe similar to Stardew Valley. Graphically, the game is a 3D game and looks rather nice. It's a very vibrant color palette with a cartoon-like art style. Gameplay seems quite deep and varied with a lot of things to do, and magic seems to feature heavily in the game's fantasy world. It does look like there's a fair bit of action and some combat maybe, but also seems it can be played more chilled out if you want to relax and just play it like a farming game. Description reads, quote, escape to the magical life of your dreams in Fae Farm, a farm sim RPG for wonderful players. Craft, cultivate, and decorate to grow your homestead, and use spells to explore the enchanted Isle of Azoria. I would say co-op, yeah, the co-op in the game is a good addition to a game like this. Customization is also looking to be quite prominent, which is good. This does seem to be a game with a lot of content. Another part of the description page reads, quote, create your own character and customize your adventure with unlockable styles and decorations for your farm. The cozier the home, the better your experience. The story unfolds independently from the in-game calendar, allowing you to play at your own pace. I will say I have always liked farming in games where it's a major element of the game alongside the main gameplay, like in a game like Valheim, really great game, Valheim. But yeah, I've wanted to play a farm sim game that focuses on farming as its sort of main gameplay. Um, Maybe I will try this or something similar in the future. Do like the idea of building up a farm and customizing everything. This game looks as if it is filled with things to do, customization wise and just in general. Fae Farm is releasing on the 8th of September for PC and the Nintendo Switch, although neither versions have a demo when I checked, which I'm kind of surprised about for a game like this. I'm pretty confident in saying that the vast majority, I guess, of people probably don't play demos, but I feel they're nice to have just in case. In any case, the game's looking pretty cool. Definitely check it out if you're into farming games, especially ones with a fantasy twist like Fae Farm. The second farming game, and the final game in today's upcoming section, is Sprout Valley. Sprout Valley is more simplistic, at least it seems, when compared to Fae Farm, but still an interesting and cool looking farming sim game. One notable difference is that it is a 2D pixel graphics farming game, as opposed to Fae Farm's fully 3D world. Sprout Valley's pixel aesthetic looks very nice and kind of old school Pokemon-esque, I guess. Think sort of Ruby, Sapphire, or Emerald, but in a higher fidelity. The color palette is quite soft and fits the game very well. Yeah, graphically it is looking nice. I haven't played many pixel graphics games, but there is something about them that usually catches my eye. Gameplay, as you may expect, involves building and tending to your farm. It does give me some old school Harvest Moon vibes. Also seems to have casual RPG elements. The Steam description reads, quote, Sprout Valley is an upcoming farming simulator game where you can step back from the busy life and grow the garden of your dreams. Captivating story, handcrafted experience, cute graphics, and many more. Resource gathering, among other things, does feature quite heavily. Another part of the description reads, quote, the goal would be to gather resources and improve your island life. You can grow the plants and harvest the environment for additional resources. And yeah, you can also sell and buy resources with the aim being to live a peaceful life. Quote, you can sell and buy resources you have gathered. Use your tools to accomplish your goal of living a peaceful life with harmony and nature. End quote. Another cool thing about the game is that the maps are procedurally generated and each level has a seed, akin to Minecraft seeds, I assume, that can be shared and kept to be used again. There's also a dynamic weather system, which is a nice addition. Sailing is also a feature of the game, which can be used to explore the world. Something I wasn't expecting sailing, but yeah, really like the idea of it. I guess kind of like Valheim in some ways as well. Um, Sprout Valley is coming to PC and the Nintendo Switch on the 8th of September. And the game was originally an itch.io, itch.io, however you say it, game. So yeah, it's pretty cool that it's now coming to Steam and the Switch. That is the upcoming game section finished for this week's video. Now on some gaming deals and the gaming deals section. This week I'll be covering a few deals from the ongoing Steam Strategy Fest, which lasts from the 18th of August until the 4th of September, I believe until 10 a.m. Pacific on the 4th of September. Images and footage will be included in this section as always. I guess it is quite fitting that the Homeworld games are on sale, as I covered the next game in the series earlier in the video. The Homeworld Remastered Collection is on deal, along with Homeworld Deserts of Karak. As mentioned, I have not played any of these games, but I know they are beloved classic RTS space games, and the remasters have also been very well received. When going by Steam reviews, 86% of recent user reviews are positive for the remastered collection. Deserts of Karak isn't as positively reviewed, with 72% of recent reviews being positive, but that rises to 83% for overall reviews. The remastered original games are space-based RTS games, while Deserts of Karak is mostly a planet-based RTS from what I can tell. The remastered games have you building and controlling a fleet of spaceships of varying classes and types. The description reads, quote, control your fleet and build an armada across more than 30 single-player missions. Choose unit types, fleet formations, and flight tactics for each strategic situation. Utilize advanced research to construct ships ranging from light fighters to huge cars and everything in between. Yeah, they both seem rather content-rich space RTS games, especially for their time. I do intend to play them both at some point, as well as Homeworld Deserts of Karak. I think I'd likely start with the remasters, as they are really good remasters from what I can tell going by reviews. The Homeworld Remastered Collection and Deserts of Karak are 90% off during this Steam sale event. The bundle with all three games is 93% off. The next three games are Paradox games. I guess how could I not include Paradox games in the Steam Strategy Fest sale? I did cover Europa Universalis 4 in last week's gaming deals, I believe, and that is also on sale during this event, as I believe are most Paradox strategy games. First game of the three is Hearts of Iron 4. Really great game, probably my second favorite Paradox grand strategy game, only behind EU4. Hearts of Iron 4, or Hoi 4 as I'll refer to it. The rest of the games, they constantly have to say Hearts of Iron 4 all the time. Is a game that mostly covers World War II from 1936 to 1945, though the game doesn't just end when World War II finishes. You can continue to play as you want. It's a very open game. Combat and strategy features heavily in Hoi 4, but you can also play more diplomatically or pacifistic, but that might not be enjoyable for some. As the base game is set during World War II, when science and technology was advancing rather rapidly, the game has a lot of mechanics based up upon upon how advanced your nation is. You can upgrade weapons, tanks, planes, ships, as well as your industry and electronics, among other things like infrastructure. There is a lot to manage with each nation, especially if you play sort of the more stronger, powerful allied and Axis powers. The game is also heavily moddable, and there are some really great mods which change the time period and extend the timeline of the base game to make it more viable after World War II. Mods like Road to 56, among others, are really good. It's a really great game. Like EU4, there are load of DLCs, and like EU4, I'd recommend checking reviews on them to see which ones are best. Some are more favoured than others. The game is fairly complex, but in my opinion, a little easier to get a hang of than EU4, especially if playing the base game as you're sort of guided along the path to World War II. It's a very deep and micromanagement full game, which I really like about it. You can get into really some deep sort of strategy and things in the game. But it is definitely a game that you need to sink some hours into before figuring the more advanced mechanics out. Out of all the Paradox grand strategy games I'd recommend to a newcomer, this Hearts of Iron 4, Hoi 4, and EU4 are the ones I'd probably recommend. I might recommend Stellaris or Victoria 3, but I've not played those yet, and only because they're sort of newer. I might recommend them. Maybe they're easy to get into, I'm not sure. Also, it's probably add this, not best to start with something like Victoria 2 or Imperator Rome. They are somewhat more daunting, but if you prefer those time periods, then give it a go. And just a spoiler, I will be covering them two next. Back to Hearts of Iron 4. Hoi 4 is 70% off during the strategy game sales. The Star Edition is also 70% off and includes some DLC. I believe that most of the DLCs are on sale to varying degrees, so check those as well if you're interested. The second Paradox Grand Strategy game for today's deals is, one I mentioned and said that I was going to cover. In fact, the next two, Imperator, will be after this. But it is Victoria 2, a really good game, but rather hard and somewhat convoluted, but I guess in a good way, at least once you get the hang of it anyway. I got into Victoria 2 much later than EU4 and Hoi 4. and I did watch a fair amount of videos on the game before I played it, mostly videos by iSorrow Productions. He does great videos on pretty much all the Paradox Grand Strategy games, among other games, and his on his ISP channel as well. But yeah, his videos are they are pretty funny. Definitely check them out if you're into Paradox games or just games in general. So yeah, after watching his videos for a number of years, I decided that I would try Victoria 2, and I did enjoy it after I got used to it. As I did say, it is quite complex, so it isn't the Paradox game I'd recommend newcomers to their games play first, unless you specifically like the time period. It is set chronologically before the Hearts of Iron games during the 19th and 20th century, sort of the colonial era. Gameplay wise, you improve your nation, build up your industry, build up your military, trade, and interact with other nations of the world through diplomacy and other means. There are also a number of decent mods for the game and some DLCs. I'd say Heart of Darkness, the DLC Heart of Darkness is fairly decent, and the historical project mod HPM is good, and it fixes a number of issues with the game. So in summary, it's a good game, but takes a lot of getting used to, even more so if you've never played a Paradox strategy game before. The game also has a high review rating on Steam, with 92% of recent and overall user reviews being positive. Victoria 2 is 75% off, and some of the DLCs are discounted, although not as much. And the Heart of Darkness DLC is actually not on sale for some reason. Victoria 3 is also on sale, but only 30% off, as it is less than a year old at this point. So yes, I'm not likely to get a heavier discount for a while. I haven't played Victoria 3 yet. I'd like to, but I will mention it has a mixed rating on Steam, and I believe the game has some issues, but I do want to play it nonetheless at some point. The final game that I will cover for the Steam Strategy Fest is, yeah, as I alluded to, Imperator Rome. Imperator Rome had a, yeah, we'll say about this first, had a really rough launch. Didn't play it on launch, but I got it later on sale. I believe the game is in a much better state now, and when I played it, I yeah thought it was fine, but yeah, it was much later than after launch. I think it is a really good game, but I can see why people weren't happy when it released. I enjoyed my time playing it, and I plan on going back to it soon. I keep thinking of going back and playing. I haven't played a Paradox game in I don't know actually, not majorly long, but maybe a few months, maybe sort of earlier this year. I think I played I think I was playing EU4 was the last one I played. But yeah, back to Imperator. One caveat: sadly, Paradox have basically abandoned the game, so don't expect any more updates, which is disappointing. As I like the game. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure they sort of gave up on it a little while ago, but you never know, they might come back to it. But yeah, I guess one of the reasons I may like the game a bit more is, yeah, I also like the period of history the game is set in, sort of classical antiquity. Um, think ancient ancient Roman Greece, that sort of period. As with most Paradox game, you select a nation like Rome and build them up from local kingdoms to sort of superpower, I guess. There are a ton of countries or polities you can play, as the map is rather expansive and stretches from Western Europe all the way to the edges of, I believe, Western sort of China and sort of like India and Afghanistan, that sort of area. Yeah, the map does really impress me. It is very grand on sort of like a very grand scale, a lot bigger than the like the Total War maps, things like that, as they usually are for Paradox Grand Strategy games. The new ones basically cover the whole world. And yes, like other grand strategy games, you control government decisions, military, trade, diplomacy, and other things you might expect from the genre. The game is fairly complex, but not quite as daunting as Victoria 2. I would say it's maybe similar to EU4 in some ways. It can take some hours to get used to, but once you've worked it out, you're confident playing it, it can be a very enjoyable game. As mentioned, the game did have a poor launch, but it's now improved, and this can be seen in the Steam reviews for the game. Based on the overall Steam reviews, the game has a mixed rating of 59%, but going by recent reviews, it has a mostly positive rating of 79%. And as mentioned, Paradox, no longer update the game as far as I can tell, although modders have stepped in, and there are a bunch of mods for the game, so yeah, that's good. Predator Rome is 75% off during the strategy game sales. The Centurion bundle is also discounted and includes some DLCs. The DLCs are also on sale individually with a discount, with discounts of 50% off. And that is all the Steam Strategy Fest game picks from me. There are a ton of more games, as you might expect. I'll quickly cover some sort of honourable mentions that are on sale. So you got Stellaris, another Paradox game. Then you got the Civilization games, like the main ones I played is Civ 3. I already played not a lot of Civ 3, but a lot of Civ 4 and Civ 4 Beyond the Sword and its expansion. Probably one of my favorite games I haven't played in a little while, but yeah, what really good game. Civ 4 Beyond the Sword expansion and mods for that game as well. And then Civ 5, another really good game. Civ 6 as well. Age of Empires 1, 2, and 3 definitive editions. And Age of Empires 4 Anniversary Edition, Blood Bowl 2, which is a bit different, but it is, I guess, considered strategy, but more like a sports strategy game. And yeah, plenty more on sale until the 4th of September. I did also want to mention that the Resident Evil games, I believe most of them are on sale on Xbox at the moment. And going by the Xbox site, they will be on deal for another 10 days or so, I believe. I wouldn't say much other than that they are great games, so go check them out as well. I just thought I'd add that bit in there. So before we sort of wrap up the video, I do another YouTube video spotlight this week. A video by Mawk3, so MAWK3, and the video is most active PlayStation 2 online games in 2023. So in this video, Mawk3 covers the online games which are still being played on the PlayStation 2. So yeah, very cool and interesting watch if you're sort of into older games like that. And yeah, I guess there are still ways to play some of them online even in 2023. So yeah, that's yeah, cool. So yeah, that's basically the end of the video. That's all the game coverage from me today. I will be publishing a tech news video tomorrow, so check back for that if you're interested. As always, feedback is appreciated, so go ahead and like or dislike and leave a comment. If you enjoy my videos and commentary, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back again soon.